Welcome to episode 3.
Yes, we're back again.
We're back. Your worst nightmares are back.
So, if you don't know by now, I am Nia, and this is
Myra, and this is AntiSocialMurderClub.
Yes, I did not chime in like I was supposed to.
Yeah, you were supposed to. But...
My bad. So, this week, we are tackling a cult.
And we are doing things a little different this week.
Yeah, because Myra was sicky tone, so I had to do all of the research.
I was out of commission for like 4 days, so Nia took the lead on this. And we just watched the documentary, so we know a little bit. Mm-hmm. Well, I know a little bit. And I feel like I've seen some stuff about it like a couple years back, but I don't know all the nitty-gritty details, so I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited to kind of like hit her with some of the creepier facts that come out in this case. FYI, this case is super creepy. I was actually excited to come over this one because I'm really into cults, but in the grand scheme of things, this was very small compared to like other cults.
Yeah.
There's only, 3 members and a leader. So I don't really know why they would consider it a cult, but that's what they call it. So
I feel maybe because like the murders were so grisly that they just like assumed it was a
cult,
satanic shit, when really, they were just probably psychos.
They did. We'll get into it, but they did have. They were reading from what's the Satanic Bible in certain times, and there was an attic that had crosses painted on those walls and stuff like that. So I can see why. And in the documentary we watched, they did mention that they the leader was reading a lot of like ancient rituals and things like that.
Got it.
Okay.
Got it.
So, with all that being said, we are covering the Ripper Crew, also known as the Chicago Rippers. It was a string of murders that happened between May 23rd of 1981 and October 8th of 1982. Okay.
So the 80s again.
Yeah, like most of these cases.
The 80s were a wild time here in America.
Mm-hmm. So, in this case, the murderers or the cult members didn't really have a specific type. They were going after sex workers, but in some cases they just grabbed random women. The races of the victims differed. There were some black, some white. There was an Asian one. But all in all, they're said to have 18 plus victims. But from my understanding, 6 of them died. Now, they may be a little more, but out of that, that's what I'm going to go over. So I'm going to go over a few different victims, but not like all 18.
Does it seem like it's kind of like this was, it was their escalation? Like it kind of started off like assaults and then they got to this?
I didn't pick up that vibe.
Okay.
I feel like it just depends on the individual, it seems like, or how involved they got into it. So, with all that, I guess I'll just jump in with the first victim that I found information for. This victim's name is Linda Sutton. She was 28 years old. She was abducted on May 23rd, 1981. And really quickly, I did not go over the names of the people involved in this crew.
Let's take it back a couple seconds.
Yes, let's take it back.
Rewind.
Pull up. My bad. Y'all know I'm not used to doing this part. So the leader was named Robin Gecht. He was the oldest of the group. Mm-hmm. And then his employee, which we found out, Edward Spritzer?
Looks like Spritzer.
Was also part of it. And then there was also brothers, Andrew and Thomas Cocorelles. And from what I was understanding, they were actually teenaged, but they don't look that way in the picture, but that's just what...
We know how certain people age around here.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, Gecht, which we'll get into, was the ringleader of the group, and the others claimed that they were just following him or actually controlled by him, okay? Mm-hmm. So, back to Linda. She was abducted on May 23rd, 1981. Her body was found 10 days later in a field in Villa Park, Illinois. It was behind a hotel that we saw. The hotel... Police came because people complained of a smell, and they found her there. Her body had been mutilated and her left breast amputated. According to Spritzer, she was gang raped, sodomized, and her left breast was cut off while she was still alive.
Shit.
Yeah.
So what was cause of death?
I don't know.
Oh.
Probably that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to call you out. I'm just like, this was all done while she was alive? Like,
well, it said it was all done while she was alive. Yeah. Lorianne Broski was abducted on May 15th, 1982. They found her while she was about to open her realtor's office where she worked. She declined a ride from the driver, who I believe was Gecht. And then two men jumped from the van and grabbed her. They took her to a hotel room where they gang raped her and beat her. And a wire was wound around one of her breasts and tightened until it was severed from her body and fell to the floor. So
my boobs hurt.
So from my understanding, they used either a fish wire or a piano wire to remove the breasts of the women. According to Spritzler again, in a sworn testimony, Gecht had sex with Broski's breast and then finished her off with an axe. Her body was discovered 5 months later in a cemetery in Clarendon Hills. Okay, there was another one. Guys, I butcher names.
Shui Mack,
okay. And remember we said their victims differ. So this young lady was Asian. They had a few black victims and a few whites as well.
Kind of seems like it was just whoever was there at the time.
Right. So she was abducted May 29th from Hanover Park, a village northwest of Villa Park. They drove her to an isolated wooded area where they raped her, cut off her breast, sliced her body into ribbons, and buried her in a hole.
Wait, sliced her body into ribbons?
So I'm thinking they cut her so close together her skin probably resembled ribbons.
Oh my god. Yeah. Oh.
And they buried her in a hole, and her body was found 4 months later. So you know.
I'm kind of glad I didn't research that.
Yeah, this one was really. I was at my desk just like,
oh my god,
yo, I don't need to know all this.
The pictures going through my mind right now are just wild.
Okay. Angela York, this woman was a sex worker. She was abducted 2 weeks after Mac, using a van, because the guys were right around one van, and handcuffed her. They handcuffed her, slashed her breasts before throwing her out of the van still alive. Unfortunately, York's description of her attackers failed to produce any leads. So she was one of the first ones that they got a report for, but they couldn't, connect them to anything. Sandra Delaware, another sex worker, her body was found on August 28th on the bank of the Chicago River. She had been stabbed, strangled, and her left breast was amputated. Rose Davis, a 31-year-old, her body was found on September 8th in an alley, having suffered almost identical injuries as Sandra Delaware. So, though they had many victims, their last victim, Beverly Washington, was found on December 6th by a railroad track. In addition to her injuries, her left breast had been amputated and her right breast had been severely slashed. She survived the attack and was able to give a description of her attackers and the van they used to abduct her, making her last victim, as I mentioned. She was able to identify Gecht's van. After that, they were apprehended by the police, and Edward Spritzer went to the police and gave them a full confession. So the confession from him allowed them to arrest the rest of the group. Sorry, guys. I feel like I'm all over the place with this. So here's some more details about the murders. So the crew rode around in a red van, and they would kidnap women, and they were mainly looking for sex workers, but as we stated, they kind of got a little bit of everything from Chicago, and took them back to Gecht's home, where he built a makeshift temple in his attic. The room was lit by candlelight, and it housed an altar draped with a red cloth. The walls were painted with 6 red and black crosses, so that's where that Satanic, stuff came in. Gecht would stand over the victims and all three of the other guys and read passages from the Satanic Bible. While he read, the others would rape and torture the victims.
Oh, God.
After the body had been mutilated, Gecht would cut the severed breast into pieces and hand them to the other gentleman. Gentlemen, I'll use that loosely. To the other guys.
Other motherfuckers.
Right. And then they would eat the flesh.
Oh, my God. So they were cannibals, too?
Yeah. Yes. So they ate it as a part of a religious sacrament.
My ass.
So according to another source, they said that Gecht, as well as the other guys, would masturbate into the breast before putting them inside of a box, which they called the trophy box. Cocorales claimed that he once saw 15 breasts in that box.
Wait, but... So they would eat a part of it? Or eat the whole thing?
Well...
Was this before or after masturbating onto it? Would they eat it along with the...
I was told that they did it after the masturbation.
No!
But that's from what I was reading. So that's what I was saying. Another source said they would take turns having sex with the open wound after the breast was severed as well. And I think they said that in a documentary.
Yeah.
That they will remove the breast, have sex with the wound, and then I think one of the women was finished off with an axe in the same wound.
Yeah, and like if they stabbed her, it looks like they... Would you say have sex with the wound too? Is that the real... Or rape the wound?
Yeah.
Ugh. This is sick.
So... During the investigation, several women came forward saying that Robert Gecht had tortured them. Most of the torture that they described includes some form of breast mutilation.
Mutilation?
Mutilation.
Ha! See?
With needles and knives. Several women said that Gecht had asked them to cut off their own nipples because he wanted to see how they worked.
Oh boy, you have a nipple too. Why don't you cut your own?
Open up a book.
You got 2 nipples. Your friends got nipples too.
Exactly.
Y'all all had this.
Look, I mean, this was back in the day. You could have just went and got you a nice little encyclopedia and looked at the anatomy of a woman if you wanted to know how the breast looked.
One of those I think they had blow-up dolls in the 80s, right? Not as sophisticated as now, but oh my God.
So, I did find an interview where he was asked about his obsession with breast. And he was quoted saying, and I'm going to read his direct quote. He said, well, in an answer to your question on obsession of the breast, it's a thing with my entire family going back, as I told to my great-grandfather. He also explained that each of us men have married large-breasted women. My ex-wife is a 39D. And yes, she was very satisfying to me.
But that doesn't explain the whole cutting off and eating and raping the wound. I don't think that he got that.
So after saying that, he also says, again, as to your question about having sex with breasts, I have no real obsession with breasts in that form. Overly, a very sick person would even think to do that. So if you haven't picked up from that, Gecht maintained that he was innocent. So after they were arrested, Edward Spritzler and the brothers Andrew and Thomas all turned on Gecht. They claimed that he had supernatural powers.
Is Superman? He's a superhero?
I guess so.
Booby Man?
Booby Man.
The unknown Avenger?
So they said he had superpowers and he was able to control them, making them do anything he wanted them to do. And by them doing that, they basically confessed to committing the crimes. Gecht attempted to avoid trial by offering an insanity.
Of course,
so he
as they do.
Yeah. He was evaluated for competency and found to be competent and to stand trial, as well as being considered to have been sane at the times of the offenses.
I believe that.
And then they said he had a mistrial, so he had a second trial beginning in September of 1983. Gecht, again, said that he was innocent and never hurt any of the women or forced others to do so. And in a quote of his, again, he said, "First mistake is considering me as a serial killer. I am not considered one. I have never killed or took part in any such acts, nor ever nor ever charged in any murders of anyone. He also stated that he didn't even know the other members of the group when most of the victims were killed. Now, we know that's not true because we found out that one of the members of the group
worked
for him. Yeah.
So you can't even lie.
Exactly. So despite the confessions of Spretzler and Coco Riley's brothers, and the witness was Beverly Washington. Was her name Beverly?
Was that the last victim?
Yes, Beverly Washington. Where am I at? Yeah, so even though she gave testimony, and we also found out how she gave testimony, was that the police brought Gecht to her bedside, and she had to pick him out. Which I felt was kind of insensitive. Like, I've never heard of people bringing...
Well, again, this is an African-American sex worker in the 80s. I'm pretty sure the cops were like, well, what harm do we have here?
We know about her mental health.
Exactly. Like, she's clearly in shock. Let's just bring this guy in. She's in the hospital. What's the worst that could happen?
Right. So, the police were unable to charge him for the murder because they claimed there was no hard evidence. He was charged in connection with the rape, kidnapping, and attempt manslaughter against sex workers, against Beverly, so against her, but was never found guilty of any of the murders he reportedly committed. Instead, he was sentenced to 120 years for attempted murder and rape, and will be eligible for parole around 2022, but we recently found out that that's changed too. Is 2042?
Yeah, 2042.
Yeah. So the kid.
So he's never coming out.
Yeah,
he's like gonna be like 90, I think, or 80 by the time he's out.
Nah.
If he's ever out,
or if he lives, yeah.
If he doesn't die.
So since that charge, the kidnapping and the rape charges were dropped, and Gecht is currently trying to obtain DNA testing. Because he's certain that it will clear him of all the charges, and so far he's been unsuccessful trying to get the DNA testing. And one of the Coco Riley's brothers, Andrew, was convicted of 2 murders and was sentenced to death by lethal injection, and that sentence was carried out March 16th of 1999. So he was the last person executed in Illinois before George H. Ryan commuted all death sentences.
Oh, shit. Good riddance.
Yeah, so he was the last one. Spretzler was found guilty of 4 murders and sentenced to death, but was commuted and is currently serving a life sentence in prison without parole. Ugh. And then Thomas, the other Coco Riley's brother, he had got life sentence as well, but it was commuted, and his release date was moved to September 30th of 2017, because he was originally found guilty in connection with a murder and is serving 70 years. So that's what he got. But then we found out that when his trial came in 2017, it was pushed back. So I really don't know what his standing is right now. He may not
come out because they usually do that.
I don't think he's going to get anything out. So I attempted to do some research on the backstories of these people, but there really wasn't much to find. I did see that because their lives were pretty normal, the public didn't really take them as murderers at first. Because they, like Gecht, for example, was happily married and had 3 children. Right. And his wife and family, of course, support him fully. And then the other guys in the group, they also had pretty good home lives and steady jobs. And here's the little thing that I wanted you to know. So Gecht,
surprise.
Yeah, here's your surprise. It might be a surprise to everyone. So like I stated, they all had good jobs. It was, it wasn't a typical serial killer situation where they were living in slums or anything like that. They were living very well. Come to find out, one of his old bosses was John Wayne Gacy.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Oh, because were they contractors too? Wasn't John Wayne Gacy like a...
Yeah. Because it said he had a job working as a construction subcontractor outside of Chicago.
I wonder if they ever got together and, like...
did things.
Well, because they... Like, their victims were women, and John Wayne Gacy was, like, young boys. Young men.
Who knows what he may have done to him.
He, like, gave him some tips, maybe, or something. Oh, my God.
So, if you guys don't know who John Wayne Gacy is, he's, like, the original killer clown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Freaky. Yeah, that case is wild.
We might have to cover that later.
Yes.
So, and then I also found a letter that Gecht wrote to Jennifer Furio. She's a crime author, and she wrote a book by the name of The Serial Killer Letters, A Penetrating Look Inside the Minds of Murderers. He wrote her, and I just wanted to read it to you guys because he's still maintaining his innocence, but the way he writes his letter, he's very narcissistic. And
I believe that.
Yeah. So, if this letter loads, I can read it to you guys. Okay. So here's this is directly from her book, which I'm actually interested in getting. So here's a letter. It says, "Dear Jenny, hope my letter finds you and your family well. Receiving your letter when first receiving it." What? It says, "Receive your letter. When first receiving it, I thought to myself, how nice for someone to take time to be concerned, until I read it and realized it not to be the case here. I sat here thinking to myself, where would she get so badly misinformed to write with judgment? After a few minutes, it dawned on me. You're reading the book Deadly Thrills by J. Slade Fletcher. That woman should write for Stephen King. I'm so sorry you wasted your money, but if you enjoy fantasies, you got it. Newsflash, that book was wrote to sell. However, you don't know me, only what you have read. So please don't judge before you have facts. No fiction as you've gotten." All that was said was with exclamation marks, by the way.
Oh my God.
I have disclosed a legal court pension. It is requested by me 4 years ago, requesting DNA testing. Please note what I was charged with only. Not going to tell you I'm an angel, but I can tell you if I was guilty of murder or of what Fletcher says in Deadly Thrills. Question: Would I request for DNA testing? So basically, he's saying like, if he was guilty of any of that, would he ask for DNA testing? And he said would be pretty stupid on my part if so. Read up on DNA, then think on my question.
Get the fuck.
I can't tell you why some choose to kill women. I love and have a lot of respect for them and life itself. Your right to believe as you wish. As I said, know me before judgment. Your conviction is based on one person's word, nothing more. I'm sorry if I disappointed you here, but I am not going to write you just to defend myself. If you
isn't that what you're doing, my boy?
Clearly. If you've made up your mind I'm guilty as charged, or more so as you're reading, then I'd rather not get into being friends or pen pals. I'm not going to add to fantasy of others. I do hold a lot of remorse for all of the needlessness and for my children and what this system puts us all through the past 15 years. But faith in God above keeps me fighting. I'll have the last say. Anger? Damn right. They're wrong. Would you be mad? As far as women, why does he keep talking about women? As far as women, I love women and I hold a lot of respect for them.
In their boobs.
However, you would know what you would. You wouldn't know, would you?
Oh.
You read otherwise. Take it as a truth. I don't respect them. I, too, one day would like to know why. Most are treated as they are, but not by me. I don't enjoy letters or phone calls filled with judgments that says, what a monster. I'm long from the fantasy that women caught Fletcher chose to write about. Nothing she wrote is based on court records or family. Thank you for your letter, however. I would type this, but recovering from a mild heart attack on 5/15 and was too tired to dig into the typewriter out. If you choose to write back, I'd enjoy it, but no judgment unless you're 100% positive I'm guilty of all stated. You might be shocked to see you're wrong here. I've never been charged with murder nor ever asked about it, and my out date is now 2002. In 96, 2 charges were dropped. Deviant sexual assault and kidnapping. Shock ya? Sincerely yours, Robin. P.S. Sorry so messy. Was really rushing to get this out to you. Was a little upset. I'll get over it. I'm sure you meant well. I wasn't going to answer, but felt you needed the truth. Enough misjudgments and hate in the world without adding to it.
So much sass.
Yeah. Sassy pants.
So sassy.
I feel like, I mean, if I was, not that I think he was wrongfully locked up. I feel like if I was wrongfully locked up, I would feel a little defensive too, but he's being like too defensive.
It's like, I feel like it's the loudest people are always the guilty ones.
Yeah.
Because it's like, why are you so... I don't know. I mean, I've already made up my mind that he's guilty, so...
Exactly. So in his letter, he said that his new date was 2002. I guess between then and now it's been changed because, as we stated, he's his new parole date is 2042.
Yeah.
So he ain't getting out no time soon.
Nope.
Okay. So here's a little something else that I found. There's another murder that happened before this stream. It happened in 1979. And it was a woman by the name of Renee Tovar. 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 She was 24 years old, and she was found by her roommate the next morning after a date. She had been slashed with a knife. Her left breast had been missing and hit on the head with a heavy object.
Damn.
Various marks on Tovar's body led police to believe she was slain during some sort of brutal ritual. She was last seen alive the night before at a 7-Eleven on East Chicago Street. So the case was reopened after a book was published about the Ripper crew called Deadly Thrills, which is the book that Gecht was talking about in his letter. Okay. And it was written by a Chicago Police Department researcher, J. Slade Fletcher. And according to the book, Gecht allegedly told her cellmate that during his deadly escapades, he had abducted a woman near Ealing convenience store and killed her, which is the same area that Renee was from. So
they think that this is part of it?
Yeah. They now think that maybe the killing started a little bit earlier. Or maybe that was his first, test.
Alone? Or,
Well...
We don't know?
I don't know. They didn't get into that from what I read. They were just saying that he confessed, that Gecht himself confessed to doing it. So maybe it was him alone before he decided that, maybe I need some help with this. Before starting the others.
Yeah, because, they said that there are 18 victims. Potential ones, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And then, don't forget, a lot of women came out the woodwork saying that, he did different things to me.
They were attacked but not killed.
Mm-hmm. So, that's all the information I have on this.
Oh, my God. This was brutal.
I know. So what do you think?
Oh, I need therapy. Oh, it's just, all the shit that they did to these, these women. Why? I just want to know what, drove them to that point. At what point do you sit there and you're like, you know what? This gaping hole of flesh, of bloody flesh, I'm going to stick my dick in.
Well, some people say a hole is a hole, but...
Is this a vagina and an amputated breast are not the same.
This is true.
Or a stab wound. Oh my God, I can just I hope these women were because so in the documentary they said that they force-fed pills on one of them. I hope that they didn't feel it. I don't know.
Because I can imagine it being, only going through the pain of it being amputated, and then they're sticking their...
And it was 4 of them, and they all did it.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I just hope that they passed out or oh my God.
Yeah. It's really unfortunate for the victims that you hear the things that people do to them, and I just always wonder what drives people to this point.
Yeah, what made you because, like, they say that they had, like, happy lives and, like, he was even married. Like, what drove you to this? Like, how long were you thinking about this? Can you imagine being his wife and, like, learning and you don't see any of the signs maybe, or you're so blind?
Yeah. I mean,
and he was in the attic of his house, right?
Yeah, he said he had an apartment with an attic. So, unless it was separate from the house that he lived in with his family, that's what they said.
But, I mean, you have to know something is up.
I read something else that there was another hotel where they said that the guy stayed. I need to find a better word for
the
them.
motherfuckers.
Yeah,
we're just gonna go ahead and find it.
They stayed at, and then I guess the owner of the hotel said that people complained about hearing noises and like they believed like satanic
rituals
were going on,
and no one checked into this.
Clearly,
I mean, I guess like. If you hear chanting and stuff coming from another room, like, you can't call the cops on them. Now, if you hear screaming...
That's true.
And, like, someone asking for help, I'd hope you'd call the police.
Yeah.
But, like, if you just hear some random stuff, people can do whatever they want as long as they're not hurting anybody.
Yep.
Oh, my gosh.
Well,
that was the case of the Ripper crew or the Chicago Rippers.
Yeah. So, I hope I did okay, guys. I'm not used to being in this position. But we will see you next week. And don't forget to hit us up.
Find us on Instagram, AntiSocialMurderClub.
Yep, or send us an email at AntiSocialMurderClub@gmail.com if you want us to research any murders that you have interest in.
Or any comments, any corrections. We'll take corrections.
Yes.
We may respond with a fuck you or something, but it's all part of the experience here at Antisocial Murder Club.
You know all the fuck yous the other person got on the other episode. It's equal opportunity.
Do you want to be them? Let us know.
Right.
We could send a couple fuck yous your way,
exactly.
Or to anyone you want. We could shout out someone that.
Right. If you want us to say fuck you just on your behalf, we can do it.
We can do that. Send us their name, phone number. We can call them live. We can start doing this thing.
Yeah. Sounds good to me.
Don't forget to rate us, comment, let us know how we're doing. Anything. How's your day going? How's your week going? Just let us know.
Yeah, let us know.
We get bored. Email us.
Yeah. But we're not going to help you with your relationships, so please don't.
Yeah, please don't.
Don't do those type of emails.
Just break up with them. Before you even... Yeah. We're getting off track here.
Yes, we are. So, bye.
Bye.
Fuck this shit, I'm out.